welcome to Game Set Matchup, the podcast where we talk everything partnerships, the good, the bad and the ugly.
Hi everyone. So on this week's podcast, we spoke to Sean Paulseth, who is based in Toronto in Canada and works for a company called Humanly. They are in the AI space and help companies to hire at scale with lots of different AI sort of powered technologies. Personally, I find this whole space extremely fascinating. We had a really, really great conversation, around the different types of partnerships that they're looking to create in the future. As usual, our guest has some top tips on how to encourage high-performing teams, and also, what he would do or advise, his younger self starting out in the partnerships world. So stick around to find out what he said. It's going to be really interesting just to see how AI technology develops in the future, and also, where Humanly will fit into that. And also just in general, how AI is going to change a lot of businesses, and then how they will then utilize these different technologies in our day-to-day use. I really think it could become, just as normal as having, the internet one day, and just AI being just a normal, normal part of everyone's lives. So anyway, as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Game Set Matchup. So this is the podcast where we discuss all things partnerships. So we do this podcast here at Finder for anyone who may be new to partnerships, maybe, and looking to pick up some tips, sort of help them out in their role, or maybe you've got a lot of experience in partnerships, and you may be just looking for a little bit of inspiration or something. But wherever it may be, thank you for tuning in. Right, so with the intro out of the way, I just let you know I'm your host today, Carl Busby, and please welcome our guest today. It's Sean Paulseth, and he is head of partnerships at Humanly. Hello, and welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Carl. It's exciting to be here. I'm excited to dive in here.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to come and speak to us. Cool. So we'll just start off as we usually do. Just obviously a little bit of introduction, sort of about yourself. So if you could tell our listeners just a little bit more about sort of who you are. A bit about the background. How you've got to be where you are today, sort of at Humanly, and I guess also as well, just, what is Humanly? What's it all about?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think partnership seems to be a unique background and role only because everyone has different avenues on how they got there, because there's so many different things and different facets that you end up working with. And I think I started off working in international media on the sales side. So building up marketing campaigns for emerging tech companies. I'm based here in Toronto, but very much on the global scale. The reason why that helped me later on is because understanding the importance of marketing and how that can help with scaling companies. And from there, I actually moved to a small startup based here in Toronto. It was scaling fast. It ended up being acquired a couple of years ago. Once again, more on the kind of sales management, but I learned a bit more about channel partnerships and the importance of that. And that actually led to that acquisition. So that was a very great experience, and then moved to leading sales and partnerships for another emerging tech company based out of Michigan. And then I moved to lead partnerships here at Humanly. Now, Humanly is a chat automation tool for candidates. So within the recruitment realm, how you can engage candidates faster, more efficiently, schedule them for interviews. It's really taking out a lot of those manual processes on the front end, so they can get the right candidates at the right time and get them in as fast as possible. So that is Humanly in a nutshell, but very much working on a global scale, and partnerships is a huge thing of what we do here.
No, that's amazing. I said I'm not gonna. I did a little bit of research, obviously, before we spoke, just to have a look and see, obviously what Humanly is all about. Obviously, some fascinating, tech with when it comes to obviously AI. I've obviously just talking to people, and obviously just different businesses. AI seems to be obviously something for definitely sort of for the future. And obviously, all sorts of companies are using this type of technology. I've heard of things where you actually you call someone up, and the actual person it's not a person, someone on the other end is actually it's AI. But even though it'd be very difficult for you, you probably wouldn't necessarily know that it was AI sort of thing. So it's just very it's fascinating to see how this sort of technology is working. I mean, I would assume for, in your opinion, like I said, this is going to be the future.
Yes, correctly. Yeah, you know what? I think AI is going to have an impact in all different types of departments. It already has. A lot of things that people were using AI for now can kind of come to light. I mean, like, this is how it actually works. So I'm hoping there's going to be more transparency. But yes, definitely going to have a major impact on how we work. Obviously, don't want to say the newest buzzword in that realm of the ChatGPT world, but obviously that will help revolutionize and put machine learning, deep learning, and AI on the forefront. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Okay, that's great. So yeah, just gets to sort of start off. How would you say you've sort of seen Humanly's approach sort of change to creating sort of partnerships in recent times? I mean, obviously you talked obviously a bit about your background, sort of how you've got to obviously where you are today. So obviously got quite a bit of experience there, but we've obviously experienced COVID, which changed the landscape completely for a lot of companies globally, much more hybrid working or literally working from home, less people out and about in offices, that kind of stuff. So how do you feel sort of change with Humanly? And then on top of that, like, what is if you could have a gold star partnership, let's say something that really sort of well, maybe obviously got some examples already, people that you've worked with, what would you call a gold star partnership for Humanly?
Yeah, no, for sure. And you had a really good point in terms of the less people working from home. Companies may have less resources. We're going into a quote unquote economic downturn. So how can companies do more with less? And that's really where Humanly can help more on the HR and recruitment side of things. But I think when it comes to a Gold Star partnership and how things have evolved over the past couple of years, being still a young company, is how can we really enhance some of the legacy systems within our industry? There seems to be a lot of tools and platforms people have been using for a really long time that haven't really been, nothing's really changed. Mm-hmm. And I think through COVID and what's going on right now, it has sparked the need for innovation, hence all of this new AI and new buzzwords and chatbots. And I think where Humanly helps, and that's where our Gold Star partnerships lie, is really enhancing and adding a layer of intelligence, so to speak, to some of these legacy systems to bring them into 2023. So how can we find a partner or maybe a platform within an industry that we serve? It may be somewhere in the high volume space, but how can we help create a better product for their customers? So in the partnership world, things like a white label, resellers, channel partners have been huge for us. And I think, how can we go in there and add that layer of AI or add that chat automation, or where can we automate those manual tasks to some of those legacy systems that haven't really changed over 2-3 decades? And it's highly competitive now, and customer retention is going to be huge. So how can we help create a better kind of customer success approach and kind of impact that area of the business? So that's kind of where we see it going, but that's where we've seen the most success as well thus far.
Okay, yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously here at Finder, we try to do obviously similar things as well, with obviously channel partnerships is a great way to obviously get people to know what you're doing. I think just like, I mean, as you I'm relatively sort of clued up when it comes, I guess, to like AI and technology, but there's probably a lot of people out there, even business themselves, that don't really know what it is or understand how that technology can really help. Could really help the business. I think it's a big education piece has probably got to go on there as well.
For sure.
But yeah, no, like I said, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So just just keeping on that same tipple there, in terms of creating business partnerships. So at the moment, so how are you sort of going about creating them? So obviously, at Finder, we're all about getting people. We help businesses secure that first meeting, with another person, to have a discovery call. Obviously, the whole idea of a discovery call is to literally discover, what it is that the other person does, and then obviously, look to see if there are sort of any synergies between the two. So yeah, at the moment, sort of how are you going about actually sort of trying to create partnerships currently?
Yeah, no, for sure. And in the world of remote, and even when COVID, when there wasn't a lot of in-person events and times where you could reach out to people in person and meeting people, like there was a couple of years there where that wasn't a huge way to reach out. And I think that was a huge hit in terms of partnerships, and sparked great technologies like Finder to help you go out and source some of these potential partners. Because then how are you doing that? How do you know what else is out there? And I think as things have moved back to or normalized a little, getting out there, going to industry events, having as many conversations as possible. And I think that's where a Finder can help and break down those barriers and have those conversations as fast as possible. You'll begin to realize, and I think in a partnerships role at all, whether you're building out a partner program or you're a partner manager for specific partners, I think having as many conversations as possible, particularly when you're kind of starting from ground zero, will always benefit you. Oh yeah, I remember talking to that person about that. Like you can start to make connections for people. I think in the world of partnerships, giving first is always important. And how I look at it in terms of business relationships now is using and leveraging technology such as Finder, leveraging technologies like Reveals and the Crossbeams of the world. How can I figure out much faster and more efficiently if this person's in my industry or this product's in the industry, but maybe it serves a completely different area within that department or in that industry, but they have very similar customers to us. Why don't we try to work together to figure out is there any overlap between our prospects and customers? I think the technology now has emerged, and I think that has now sparked, and that's how you particularly, or myself, I should say, has been able to scale and build partner programs, is because of this great technology that is now around. But I still think the kind of the grassroots way of getting out there and having conversations, meeting people at events, industry events is going to be crucial. But allowing that technology to fill that void, so you can reach out to more people, have more conversations, and better understand how you may align with that person going forward.
No, I agree. I think at the moment you're probably right. It's probably a bit of a balance between those, like you said, getting out to events, talking to people. I think one of the things we try to sort of break down a bit is, as you said in the past, like your experience, a lot of people in partnership roles, come from obviously sales sort of background, we one message we try to get out that obviously partnerships and looking to see if you can create partnership, all those synergies, having those conversations, that initial conversation, it's not a sale. You're literally having that conversation with the person, finding out where things can interact, and sometimes it might not work out, or as you said, further down the line it could be something like, oh, do you know what, I've spoken to, you've got that connection, you've got that network, you can always then go back to them. So that's one of the things that we try to make very clear, is that we are we're not a sales, it's not a it's not a leads platform. It's literally about just having two people have a conversation, and then obviously can see where it goes.
Sure.
Just also the bit of what advice do you think you probably give to your younger self starting out? So we like to ask this question. Obviously helps people who may be just getting into partnership roles, or maybe maybe they're interested in going into that side of sort of the business and stuff. Do you have any sort of like tips or anything you think sort of like do's and don'ts, or things that you would definitely tell your younger self to do a little bit differently?
It's a great question. One of the problems I ran into at my last role, building out a partner program, was not tracking everything right off the bat. So I think data helps partner leaders really convey what their impact is at times, because partnerships, sometimes you can feel like you're on that kind of partner island, so to speak, because you're not really in one department, you're kind of working with everyone. And what is your impact quarter on quarter, or month by month, or annually? Tracking the data right off the bat, so you have a foundation of partner influence, revenue, like all these different things that are now easily tracked through CRMs, whatever kind of technology you may use. Or I know people still do it the manual way through spreadsheets, which is fine too. Which I know I did for many years. But I think making sure you're tracking the data right off the bat, and tracking all the conversations you're having with people, all of like you said, having those one-to-one conversations and making sure that you remember what they said, and everything like that, I think right off the bat, so you have a foundation of data that you can then use for your advantage later on. So whether it's displaying to marketing, hey, you know what, we did a webinar series and it garnered 10 leads, 2 closed, like tracking all of that's going to be crucial for you to actually show your impact anyway. But if you don't start tracking that right off the bat, you're going to have to potentially backtrack like I did and being like, okay, where did this come from? Like, I didn't organize my partners in the good categories. Like I think being organized and making sure you're tracking the right data at the beginning is going to be instrumental for success, because you don't want to go back and backtrack and do any of that like I did, because it was very manual. And I think there's a lot of great technology that can help you do that too.
And that's some very, very good advice. I mean, we obviously find, we're a startup here ourselves. We're still using the odd spreadsheet or two, because obviously what we do is, still quite, sort of unique. But yeah, totally agree. There's a lot. Data can tell you, so much. And if you, so if you're not tracking it, or you kind of think, don't worry about it so much or whatever, and you're trying to go back to it at a later time, obviously it can be a pain, let's put it that way. That's very good advice. Cool. So just next question, with your experience of partnerships, and again, this could be obviously maybe in the role you're now, I'm not sure if you manage teams or maybe in previous roles, what would you say if you've got any sort of tips around creating a high performing sort of teams and winning cultures within the business? We all know, like for companies sort of to really excel and do well, those are the core, some of the core foundations. Obviously you need to have people having obviously the right attitude and that kind of stuff. So what do you have any tips towards what you yourself do, or things that you've seen that really get to help high performing teams and sort of winning cultures?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd say working in partnership roles, you'll begin to realize how you can work and operate within other facets of the business and other departments. So how can you, at the end of the day, you want to empower other departments. And I think that's important in building and empowering other teams and building a winning culture where you're working together. I have experience working with much smaller Series A, Series B companies. When it gets bigger, it becomes even more siloed. But in those kind of early stage companies, making sure that you're working together. I work for now a very partner focused company, and empowering other teams, once again, tracking the data, making sure that the impact you're having is helping the sales team, making sure the sales knows that there's partners out there that can help close deals, bigger ACV. Like there's enormous amount of benefits that partnerships can bring to the table for sales, for revenue, for sales leaders, for whoever you may look in, or who you may look into. So whether it's the CEO or the CRO or into the head of sales, like I think making sure that that it's a kind of a one team and we're working on this together, and partnerships can help empower all of that. Partnerships can help bring in more leads through marketing and doing marketing initiatives and making sure you're empowering them and always telling them, hey, you know what, this has been a great deal. Like this has caused, once again, tracking them, this has caused this amount of leads to come in that we normally wouldn't have. We're going into a tough time in terms of how competitive it is in the market. So making sure that you're building out an ecosystem and trying to win into other ecosystems is going to be paramount, because that will help your AEs, that will help your BDRs break down some doors. And that ultimately will help empower your teams and create more of a winning culture when you're in this together. Because partnerships is essentially there to move it to the next level, to help all of these things, to bring in revenue, to help those sales leaders. And making sure that at the end of the day, that's really the ethos, and you're in this together. And I think partnerships is unique in that sense that you get to work with all of these great leaders in all of these different companies. So you really get your name out there, but you really understand what it takes for a winning culture. You'll see other companies that haven't done the best job at doing that, but you may be talking to another company and you're like, oh my God, we should take that from that company, because you're interacting with so many other people's ecosystems and other partnership programs. You're like, maybe that really worked. So you'll really do learn as you go as well, because you'll see what other companies have done. And thank God in the kind of the era of information, that there's a lot of great resources out there Finder probably has a lot of great resources out there saying, hey, this is how you build these teams. This is what has worked. This is what doesn't work in this industry. There's a lot of great information out there that I'm sure that you can gather to help making sure that you're making the right steps early on as opposed to later.
Yeah. No, that's great point. I think I said, it obviously comes with, empowerment. And like you said, it's that communication, and obviously giving the teams obviously the tools ultimately need, but then obviously taking that responsibility and just going with it, and obviously you want to have the confidence in that they are going to obviously be able to do that. So 100%. I totally agree with that. So obviously we touched on this a little bit before, but we do like to obviously ask this question. So just around, what you sort of think the future holds, for business when it comes to creating partnerships. Obviously we've talked about, the way the world's changed. The obviously some of the sort of different ways, that obviously you're looking to do that at the moment. I think again we've touched on the technology, that kind of stuff. But what do you think? Obviously, you or Humanly are going to be doing a bit differently, maybe that you've done before. Maybe you've got obviously you don't have to give us all your secret ideas, but anything that anything that you feel is going to be just going to be doing a little bit different change, just than before when it comes to creating partnerships.
Yeah, no, I'd say going into this year, we've seen tremendous success, obviously, in partnerships. And I think generally what you'll see is partnerships having more of a spotlight. I think CMOs, CROs are having trouble hitting certain targets, AEs having hard times hitting their quotas. So where can a department really come in, or maybe not a department, but where can someone come in and really have an impact there? That's where partnerships can really help drive revenue, empower those AEs, speed up sales cycles, increase the size of those deals, work within marketing to actually garner some results. So I think there's going to be a bigger focus on partnerships. And for us personally at Humanly, we've done an awesome job of laying the foundation there right off the bat. But I think we have to win within another ecosystem. So I think particularly if you're a growing company, you probably had the experience of partnering with a much bigger marketplace or cloud or maybe a service. How can you empower them and how can you win within their ecosystem and make you number one in that? I think it's going to be important. And I'm really trying to hone in and focus on some of those bigger wins within those marketplaces because they can really garner in big results, but also not forget where we've seen success before in terms of channels and resellers, and where can we build off those really great partners that we've created, because you don't want to lose them, particularly in this climate. So I think we're going to double down on growing current partners, doing what's worked, and try to get some of those bigger wins with some of those bigger companies, which take a much longer time. So we can take it to the next level in terms of winning in that ecosystem.
Yeah, that again makes total sense. I think just speaking to some of the business I've spoken to, especially like with on podcasts as well, the partnerships in general is still quite a new thing to a lot of businesses. To actually have a team or even like a dedicated person to actually doing those. So I think obviously spot on in terms of I think more and more companies now are seeing the value. Obviously all scales of companies seeing the value in having or be able to have partnerships to be able to bring in obviously the extra the revenue and stuff. But yeah, no, like I said, obviously good luck with those on that space. Cool. We're just going to run one last question. So lots of been very, very insightful. We'll just do this just for a little bit of fun. And just to see, what comes off the top of someone's head. So, if you could, partner, obviously, which is all about partnerships, any particular business, and it can be anyone, or like I said, maybe it's a particular person that you sort of admire, or someone that you think, we could do some really good stuff. I've probably got some ideas you're going to come up with already, being in the AI space. But so like, what would be like, a gold star partnership with anyone? If you could pick anyone,
I would. Without being too obvious in the chat world, is I think, and there's kind of a twofold to this. So understanding the partnership strategy for companies such as OpenAI. Obviously, we're in the realm of chat and machine learning and AI, and they've opened up ChatGPT for companies to use and people to use. But what is their ultimate partner strategy? What does that look like over the next couple of years? Better understanding that, because I really do think that's going to revolutionize what we do, kind of like what mobile did and the internet and what have you. So understanding what their partner strategy is, and obviously us being in that realm and how we can partner with that would be great. But I think just overall in terms of interest and on how that's going to shake out and how that's going to work out and how they're going to regulate that and how people are going to use it day to day, and how does it impact people's lives, I think would be super interesting to understand. And much smarter people are figuring that out now. I think it would be cool to be in the inner workings and understanding that strategy too.
Yeah. No. I mean, like I said, that. Yeah, I thought you might have come up with a name, but I know exactly what you mean. So you would be, well, we'd be within within that sort of realm, right? In sort of all the technology and everything that's going on in that space. So that makes a lot of sense. As I said, I'm fascinated by the whole AI technology piece. I still think it's incredible, that you can talk to someone, whether it be on a chat or on the phone, and you're talking to a human. For a lot of people that just wouldn't even know they wouldn't know they were even talking to AI. So very, very interested to see what goes on in that space. And also for you guys, we'll keep tabs and see how Humanly is doing in that space as well.
Absolutely, appreciate it.
Cool. Look, so amazing. Right, like I said, we're going to wrap things up there. Like I said, thank you so much for coming on, taking the time to come and talk to us, obviously at Finder. As I said to you, we really appreciate taking the time and giving us your insights in the partnerships world.
Yeah, thank you, Carl, and thank you, Finder.
Thanks very much. Okay, see you later.
Thanks for joining this week's Game Set Matchup. Tune in to hear more about the need to knows and the do's and don'ts when it comes to creating successful business partnerships.